Hello, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Football. My name is John Halpin alongside Chris Palma. How you doing today, my brother?
Doing good, man. Season may be over on TV, but it's still rolling. Off season's right around the corner. Free agency right about to start.
I know.
Still fun.
It is football season year round here in Let's Talk Football, but we wanted to just start with at least our Super Bowl recap because what a Super Bowl it was. A lot of twists and turns. Let's just start by congratulating the Philadelphia Eagles for beating the Kansas City Chiefs 40-22. Even though the score was an 18-point game at the final, it was not an 18-point game throughout the game. It was a major blowout by Philly, who dominated the Chiefs from start to finish.
Yeah, it was very telling at like the end of the first quarter that the Chiefs just simply didn't belong on the field. The scoreboard didn't show it at first, but a couple of drives, that's all it took for the Eagles to wake up, and the Chiefs were just lost. Offensive line had no answer for that defensive front in Philly.
Mhm.
Chiefs offense had no push down the field. Shout out Cooper DeJean for being I believe it was the first defensive back to return an interception for a touchdown on his birthday since like 1930 something, since the
Mhm.
conception of the league.
Yep.
So congratulations, rookie, and happy birthday.
Yeah, we're recording this a couple weeks a little after the Super Bowl. Just had a couple, things pop up here and there, but we definitely wanted to talk about it because it is worth talking about. This was a game that I don't think anyone expected a blowout from the get go. Everyone, including us, we thought it would be a close game because both teams kind of matched up very well against each other. But this had a lot of shades of Super Bowl 54 with the Buccaneers and the Chiefs, where it was a big blowout. Chiefs had really no answer, and the Eagles kind of stole a page from the Bucks, where they were still able to get pressure on Patrick Mahomes by only rushing four people. They didn't send a blitz one time. It was all on like Jalen Carter and that whole defensive line right there. You could have picked anyone from the defensive side of the ball to win Super Bowl MVP because they rightfully earned it. But I got to give a shout out to Jalen Hurts because he stepped up in the biggest moment and he deservedly won Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. It was a full team effort, but he was the true leader that you and I have really known him to be since he came into the league.
Mm-hmm.
People have been underestimating and questioning his leadership abilities. I don't think there's any type of question anymore. He is a true leader. He is an elite in this game. And he is a threat to just about everybody in this league. This Eagles team, in my opinion, will go down as one of the best football teams to touch the field.
And honestly, like what an incredible season too. It started off a little rocky. They started 2-2, but then just went on such a tear throughout the midseason. And the only other game that they lost after their bye week was the Washington game where they where Jalen Hurts got concussed. So, but aside from that, like since then they like picked it back up and it was full throttle ahead for the Eagles. And I got to say for this game in particular, um, again, great execution, great game plan by Nick Sirianni. Uh, Great execution by the offense, led by Kellen Moore, who is now going to be the Saints head coach. Great defensive plan by Vic Fangio. And to think of the turnaround that happens, because you and I, we talked about it before, where it's like the decisions made in the offseason will be indicative of how the team performs in the regular season. And the Eagles, in one offseason, changed their whole fate. And with this one season, they got the right coordinators, they got the right guys in free agency. They drafted the right guys to be on that defense, not only this year but in years past and everything. So, and they were able to again replace the irreplaceable in Fletcher Cox, in Jason Kelsey. Like their absence you would have never felt their absence looking at this team because they were just so dominant, like game in and game out, and they have earned the right to be Super Bowl champions. So big congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, 100%. Again, I will say it again. This Eagles team was so good, and I'm talking when it comes to just personnel on the field, coaching staff, everybody. This is, I think, a stat that really goes underspoken and underappreciated. That 21 of 22 day one starters played in the Super Bowl. Think about that for a second.
That's wild. Absolutely fucking wild.
That is one of the single greatest stats to come out of this Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
For you to have almost a full roster of day one starters from August be healthy and of actual like merit on the field that you're playing and you're sending a message as you play in February. We say this is a game of attrition, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like the healthiest team wins. I don't know that you can really get much healthier than that.
I know. Like
you have
99% of
right. You hit a 99% health rate going into the biggest game of your lives. Hats off to the medical staff of Philadelphia. Like, when you want to talk about a full team franchise win, this Super Bowl should emulate that on everybody deserves their flowers going into this game, into this win.
Absolutely. Especially general manager Howie Roseman, because yes. he has been cunning and making the right moves every offseason that has led them to this point here. And it's truly great. And it's funny because when I talk to people about the Super Bowl, they'll be like, "Oh man, this that was one of the worst Super Bowls I've ever seen." I was like, "No.
No. You don't understand what you were watching.
This was a great Super Bowl because it's literally the biggest payoff to some of the hardest work from general manager down to medical staff to coordinators to players. This was a victory. This was an organizational win against a team that was chasing history. And I kind of want to flip it to the Chiefs a little bit because this was a very, very stunningly disappointing performance by the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm. They looked lost.
The Andy Reid did not have the right game plan. He didn't make any adjustments within the game. And in the first half, they only ran the ball 6 times with their running backs. And what was it? They didn't get into enemy territory on their first 9 possessions. They only had 23 yards in the first half when the Eagles had 24 points in the first half. But the big elephant in the room and the big killer was those 2 interceptions by Mahomes. And that when it was 10-0, that pick 6 by Cooper DeJean just it
broke the game wide open.
Broke the game. But at that point, I'll be honest, I was like, I don't know. We have seen the Chiefs make those comebacks before. We saw them.
Correct.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm not too sure. And then pinned back to their own end zone, Patrick Mahomes throws another interception to Zach Bond, a free agent acquisition that the Eagles acquired from the Saints. And then they went up 24-0. It was 24-0 at half. Kendrick was dancing to Not Like Us at halftime while the Eagles were pretty much gleefully happy in the locker room, and the Chiefs were lost. And then the Chiefs came back out in the second half. By that point in time,
37-0.
It was 27-0 at one point, and then Jalen Hurts threw the dagger to Devonta Smith, 34-0. And then at a certain point, it was 40-6, and that was kind of the real score, 40-6, right? They got a lot of garbage time touchdowns, but man, you look at Mahomes' stats, he actually played a lot worse than what his stats say. And this was one of those games where it's like because Mahomes has, again, separated himself amongst the quarterbacks currently, right? And he's really chasing Brady. But I think that one thing that Brady will have over Mahomes throughout his entire career is obviously, like, again, they played in a Super Bowl against each other, and Brady's 2-0 against Mahomes in the playoffs. But the way the Chiefs lost both those Super Bowls to massive blowouts with kind of the same defensive game plan, we have not seen from Brady at all. All his Super Bowl losses were one possession and really close. But Mahomes, this was when the moment was brightest. This may have been his worst game. But let me ask you, CP, because I'm curious. With all the lead up into this game for the Chiefs, with the chasing history of a three-peat, right? A 3-year journey to then end on such a whimper. Is this the worst loss in Kansas City Chiefs history?
Well, no.
Because they got embarrassed.
No, because you got to remember that they were terrible for a very long time.
Yes, but like at that point there was no expectations.
Right.
And so now with the expectation being as high as they set it for themselves, they went way below expectation.
Yeah, but again, I wouldn't necessarily say would this be their worst loss as a franchise? Maybe in the Patrick Mahomes era, and it's not close. You know, in the Patrick Mahomes era, this was the worst performance the Chiefs have ever made.
Mm-hmm.
In the Andy Reid era, this may be the worst performance that has ever been put on the field.
Yeah.
Even with Alex Smith, you didn't see a game like this come from the Chiefs.
No.
So there was some type of disconnect in that locker room. A lot, people are trying to say it was Super Bowl fatigue. I don't know about that. Some people say it was, the obvious. It was the lack of changes at halftime. Why did that happen? No one knows. Andy Reid, you expect him to pull out that little playbook and, make the changes that are needed.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the conversation of Patrick Mahomes versus Tom Brady is forever put to rest after that game. And that's my personal opinion because, again, when it comes to the history and the legacy of Tom Brady, until the year he retired, there was never enough time on the clock to say this game was over when he was on the field.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Without a doubt, if you gave him a possession, he was getting in scoring range.
Mm-hmm.
At the very least.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that you can confidently say that about Patrick Mahomes anymore. This season, not just the Super Bowl, this season in a nutshell showed that he is not that consistent anymore. That we need you to be great moment. You cannot guarantee that Patrick Mahomes can pull that off anymore, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. It may be a strong stance to take because of this year. He may turn it around and prove me totally wrong next year. He's going to have to prove everybody that he is still that guy.
Yeah.
Because this was a very telling loss. Mm-hmm. Again, like you said, they were chasing history. Mm-hmm. So were the Eagles. Mm-hmm. The Eagles were chasing history of finally becoming a plus 500 team as a franchise.
Which is absolutely wild.
They were chasing history. Saquon Barkley was chasing history. Jalen Hurts was chasing haters and questions. Everybody on that team had something to prove. Not just Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. So it came down to who wanted it more. You guys were living on cloud 9 because you were defending champions. These guys just came in and put you back on planet Earth. And you're going to have to earn every step of the way back to get there. And there's a lot of teams that you stepped on to get there that are not going to be happy to see you next year.
Yeah. No, oh, absolutely not. And it's tough because it's like, again, they still have their streak of games won by one possession, right? But this was not even close to being a one possession game.
Again, they just didn't belong on the field against the Eagles.
The
Simply.
Eagles, I will say this though, for teams in the AFC, and I'll put the Ravens at the front of the line, the Bills, the any other AFC team you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's some kind of level of like Chiefs mystique where it's like, oh, it's the Chiefs, and like they kind of get into their own head where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I need to play perfect in order to beat the Chiefs, right? And I mean, obviously, I've seen it with the Ravens before. Right? Lamar has like got into his own head and has really like diminished his play because of it's like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that in order to beat the Chiefs, right? The Eagles were not intimidated by their mystique at all. They were like, we don't give a fuck who you are. We're coming in and we're going to punch you in the fucking mouth.
Well, and that's what it takes, right? Because when you have teams, I don't mean to cut you off, when you have teams like that, and this goes in all sports, when it comes to being a champion, there's an aura with you that if you present yourself in the right manner, you can beat just about anybody before you even touch the field.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a certain type of special to not be fazed by that.
Mm-hmm.
And in that grows an aura yourself. So think about when the Chiefs beat Tom Brady, or they beat the Bucks, right?
Oh,
they lost to the Bucks.
Yeah, they lost the Bucks.
When he beat Brady to go to the Super Bowl.
He never beat Brady in the playoffs.
Oh, he never beat Brady in the playoffs. I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm. He beat like Allen. He beat Burrow. He beat Lamar.
I thought they played I thought it was no.
So
never?
in 2018, they played in the AFC title game. The Patriots when Tom Brady was on there, and the Chiefs in Arrowhead. Tom Brady won that one in overtime.
Oh, that's
went
right.
to the
You're
Super
right.
Bowl, and that was the Patriots Rams Super Bowl.
Right.
That
right,
13-3 Super Bowl. Yeah, that dud. But
that dud. You're right.
But
So when the power vacuum happened and the Chiefs won their Super Bowl, it created that in the AFC. It's fuck.
Against the Niners, yeah.
Now they're the defenders of the AFC.
Mm-hmm.
That's where this power vacuum landed.
Yep.
And that's where it stayed. Not anymore. I think that aura, barring sheer blowouts next year, out the gate for Kansas City, I think that aura is all but diminished. They cannot keep having one possession wins and try and keep that aura of we are that lethal. Oh, you're not. You're one of us again.
Yeah, because like, and to piggyback off that, right? They were 15-2 this season, right? But
worst 15-win team I've ever seen.
Exactly. That's the thing, though. It's like those wins were not like convincing wins by them.
By any means of the word.
They were very fortuitous, where a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's rigged. It's rigged." I mean, clearly it's not, because otherwise, what the fuck was this Super Bowl, right? Like, there was no way. So I'm glad. Honestly, I'm kind of glad that conversation is kind of squashed a little bit with rigging of the game, because there's no way in fuck the NFL would have allowed this to happen.
No way. There's no if it was any type of entertainment purposes, there's no way they would allow a 32-point fucking beating before 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. There's no way any type of entertainment leader would be like, people are going to enjoy this.
I mean,
I personally enjoyed watching the game regardless of the scoreboard, because it was competitive for about the first 22 minutes. And then it just became an absolute bullying. It was just off to the races. It's just, once fatigue started setting in is really when you saw the problems in Kansas City really unfold.
Yeah.
One picture that really, it made me scratch my head. It was Chris Jones.
Oh.
At the goal line. They were going for a tush push. This man thought it would be smart to line up perpendicular to the offensive line. And I'm not talking on an angle like he's angled into the gaps. I'm talking he is perpendicular. like going guard to guard. His body is on the center,
Mhm.
and he's facing the ball. And he just proceeds to get steamrolled. Respectfully, why? What the fuck do you expect to do then? Just what do you expect? You guys have no answer. You guys didn't practice to try and stop the QB sneak. You know it's coming.
Well,
You know it's coming.
it's funny because they got that practice 2 weeks prior against Buffalo because Buffalo was running like the tush push, right?
But it's different.
It's different because Philly's perfected it.
Correct. It's the same thing when it comes to short game runs or fullback runs. It's everyone tries it. There's only a few teams that do it right.
Exactly.
And when you do things right versus do things a lot, it shows. The Bill, like, perfect example, Detroit. They go for fourth down a lot. The Eagles go for fourth down right. Fourth and short, 4th and 3, 4th and 4. Anything after that, they're probably getting rid of the ball. Best part is their offense really doesn't give them any long situations. Lions, they'll go for it if it's less than 4th and 6. 4th and 6, 4th and 5. They'll go 4th and 7. We've seen it. You know, 4th and inches, you know for a fact they're going for it. Does not matter.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing with the Eagles, but they have got it down to a science, and that comes down to preparation. So while you say you can look at another team and, oh, we got those reps, no, you didn't, because you could barely stop it there either.
I mean, they did.
You stopped it when you needed to
with Buffalo, yeah. But the thing is, though, Buffalo's not
again,
Philly.
It's
Buffalo's
not Philly,
yeah. And
right.
Josh Allen's not squatting 600 pounds like fucking Jalen Hurts,
right? With an 800-pound squatting running back behind him.
Yeah, where like collectively they could just fucking squat for like.
You can squat a car. You can squat a small car.
Ridiculous, absolutely fucking ridiculous. And again, but you hit the nail right on the head though. Preparation, and that's the thing though is like when it came to the preparation of this game, clearly the Eagles were the most prepared team over the Chiefs because they knew going into it that's like we have the personnel that can take care of it. It's just a matter of executing at the highest level, and they did. And and for that, they absolutely deserve. I will give credit to the Chiefs on one part. They did get one aspect of the game right. They stifled Saquon, but he only had, I think, 52 yards rushing. And so, and they tried running the ball with Saquon, but the Chiefs, to their credit, did stop Saquon. However, they didn't prepare for Jalen Hurts to beat them with their arm. They kind of overlooked that part,
which I think gets overlooked a lot by Jalen Hurts.
And that's the thing.
His arm
is amazing.
Right, he's such a good quarterback.
When it was 27-0, and he at the 50-yard line tossed a rainbow fucking ball right into the arms of Devonta Smith perfectly. I think that if anyone were to ever question the talent of Jalen Hurts, he shut them up right then and there.
There shouldn't. Again, it's so weird to me when it comes to people who really question the ability of Jalen Hurts. Do you not see what he does on the field? You know what I'm saying? It's like, are you not witnessing what, even when he's not throwing the lights out, the way he commands that offense, even when they're losing, just to keep their head, understand we are here for a purpose, and it is the task that is in front of us, and only that. That is all that's important right now. And then you tie that in with the leadership skills of Saquon, where it's when they're up big, he keeps people humble. And when people are down, Jalen Hurts picks them up. They are the perfect, happy duo of leadership, and it shows. And now you see Jalen Carter growing into a defensive leader. He's feeding off of that. And now there's a couple of young guys that he's going to have to help direct when times get tough, because it will not stay like this forever.
Oh, no.
So when that time comes, you can almost guarantee that Jalen Carter is going to take the step he is born to be and be that defensive leader that is the Phil slot from Fletcher Cox.
And I mean, I think he already proved it this year,
Correct.
and that's
Throughout the year.
Yeah, throughout the year he's up because again, they only rushed 4. They didn't need any more.
They didn't need any more, and that's the scary part. What happens when? I know they didn't do it this upcoming, but what happens when they decide that they just want to?
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Teams better get prepared for that because honestly, I think continue.
The threat that is Philly is something that I don't think a lot of people saw coming, you and I included.
No, we saw it too. We saw it,
but I don't think we saw it in this type of tone.
I didn't think that they'd be champions, but I figured that they would be a very, very good team this year. I didn't think Super Bowl champions, but I'm like, no. They made especially with Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio. Like those were like once they got those coordinators, I was like, no, Philly's going to be really good this year. Yeah. And I mean, but again, I didn't think that they'd be champions. But man, they sure proved everyone wrong. But they're here to stay.
Correct. That's what I mean. They are here. I don't think people saw the longevity of what this team can be. And I think people are still trying to underestimate the longevity of this team. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say that it's going to be a dynasty or anything like that. I'm just saying they are going to be habitual pains in the ass for however long Nick Sirianni is a coach. He has elevated himself into a different class set of coach from this season to next season. He really has, in my book, he's elevated himself to elite coach in the league.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I 100% agree with you because the Eagles, this whole team is comprised of people that have been disrespected their entire career.
It's like the Island of Misfit Toys.
Yeah, pretty much. Like Nick Sirianni, like no one has ever believed in him. Jalen Hurts had so much criticism against him. Saquon Barkley was disrespected by a whole organization. Their draft picks were disrespected and criticized as like, oh, that's a reach and stuff. And they proved everyone wrong. And and for that, like, to me, that's what made the Super Bowl so worth watching because this was a collective group of men proving everyone wrong and overcoming the disrespect that that was like overcast them for most of their careers. Because right now, like you said, Philly's here to stay. And for teams going into this 2025 season, if you're an NFC team, you're probably going to have to play the Eagles at some point if you want to make it to the dance.
Right. At the very least, you're going to have to play them in the NFC Championship for the next couple of years.
That or the divisional round. I mean, the NFC flexes a lot compared to the AFC.
For sure.
But the Eagles.
But I think they put a master lock in at this point. You know what I mean?
I completely agree with you. And I think that we're going to see in this upcoming offseason, we're going to see a lot of teams kind of try to pull a page from Philly's playbook, especially when it comes to the defensive line. I would put a lot of money that the Bills and probably the Ravens in the AFC are probably going to be drafting some defensive linemen because I think
that'd be an interesting move.
Because the big formula, and we've said this before on this channel, where it's like the biggest kryptonite to any elite quarterback is beat him through the pass rush. And we've said that's happened for Brady. That was Manning's kryptonite. That was Mahomes' kryptonite.
Joe Burrow's
kryptonite. I guess all but Lamar, because Lamar doesn't give a shit about fucking pass rush. He's got
fucking ice in his veins and just runs like a lunatic.
Yeah. But that's the thing though. That's how you disrupt the elite quarterbacks within the league is by rushing 4. That's how the Giants beat Brady in those Super Bowls many, many years ago. They had, JPP, Justin
Michael
Tuck,
Strahan,
Michael Strahan, Osi Umenyiora, like And those guys won them those Super Bowl. I mean, Strahan was only for the 07. He wasn't there for the 11 one, but you get the point. But even still, it's like I would guess that a lot of the competitive teams that we saw in this past playoff bracket start to look towards the defense, especially defensive linemen.
I think they should. And that would be an interesting transition to who, I don't want to say who gets focused on, like, position-wise, but, like, we've been saying it for a couple of years. Like, a couple of years ago, it was the year of the receiver.
Mm-hmm.
This past year, it was the year of the running back.
But the free agent running back.
Right, but the year of the running back, nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
It was a bunch of running backs that wound up in a different home that started fucking tearing the roof off.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe next year could be the year of the front. It's saying a lot. You and I hold linemen in the league to a different respect level than I think a lot of people give credit for.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, like you said, when it comes to that front four of Philly, it really showed people the importance of having, number one, the importance of having a top-tier offensive line.
100%.
Because the absence of that, when you come into a front four that's just nasty and is ready to be physical, they don't stand a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at the Chiefs. They didn't have a great offensive line this year. It was good. It helped them win games. It didn't wow anybody. It wasn't stellar. And they went up against just a hungry defense, a hungry front four,
mm-hmm.
who want to make a name for themselves. And what's the best way they do it? They put your offensive line on their backs all night.
Yeah, it was
not pretty watching, like, you and me, like, we like to study the fight that happens at the line of scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
For those who watch, and I hope over these couple of years of you watching us that you have at least tuned into the things that happen at the line of scrimmage, because it's a dance.
Mm-hmm.
And this dance was not pretty for Kansas City. They got tripped up, they got pushed around, they got bullied by 4 people all night.
And this was, again, Philly gave them the test that Tampa already gave them years ago. And it seemed that the Chiefs just never needed to learn from it. The Chiefs did learn from it that following year, because I do remember us talking about that year. That was the first year that we had started the podcast. And I remember us talking about how it's like we're going to see a lot of teams do that Tampa 2 defense against Patrick Mahomes. And that was when they transitioned into a very dink and dunk offense, right? And that they never changed out of that since that point.
Right.
And even though, like, the explosive nature of Kansas City kind of went away, they still were dink and dunk, but even still, it's like the defenses just got better over time. That's the thing, though, is like that Tampa Bay defense was stellar, absolutely stellar. You had absolute studs in every single level. And then Philly was like, we need some of that. And then over the years, they built that through the draft.
Earned that respect, right.
They built that through the draft and free agency. And it's those decisions in the offseason led them to championship in February.
Can I also... I want to stop another conversation right now.
Mm-hmm.
Travis Kelce versus Rob Gronkowski. Can we please put that to rest?
I don't know. I mean, you could still make the argument, though.
I don't think it's there specifically because of how he fucking blocks. Dude, he can't block for anything. He does not want to be physical. He takes plays off. He has trouble catching the ball across a low flat. Come on. I understand when it comes to longevity and being on the field for the amount of games. Respectfully, Rob Gronkowski only had 2 full seasons played in his whole career.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying injuries weren't an issue. When he was on the field, and it was for a good lump sum of the year, every year, 10 games, 11 games, 12 games, he was the best tight end I think we've seen in our lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, I I do agree with you, and I do agree that I would put Gronk over Kelsey. And again, because of what, like, to your point, right? The tight end position demands certain requirements than any other position, right? Each
Correct.
position requires a certain amount of thing. If you are a tight end, you have to block. You have to block, right?
You have to know how to run
Because
block. You have to know how to pass block.
Mhm.
You have to know how to hitch. You have to know how to do things that linemen do. The reason why you're a tight end is because you're too small to be a lineman, and you're too slow to be a receiver.
But you got good hands.
But you're big and you're physical and you have hands. So you're going to be a tight end. So you got to do what the linemen do,
Mhm.
and you got to be able to do it well. There were multiple instances during that game where a block that was supposed to be made by Travis Kelce was missed, and it ended up with Patrick Mahomes on the floor.
Yep. And
Like verbatim, that is why he ended up with being sacked, was because Travis Kelce missed a block.
I will say this too. There was also a play, if you look back in the Super Bowl, I think it was when they were sometime
Like mid third quarter,
mid-third quarter. You might know the one I'm talking about, where it's like he literally gave up on the play.
When he did like the arm wave.
No, like he did the arm wave, but like he was supposed to block for Mahomes, and he gave up his blocking assignments, and he was literally just standing, watching Mahomes scramble around and literally not moving.
Nope.
And to me, what separates good players from great players is
those moments.
Is effort. Even when it's looking it's your darkest hour and there's no hope, you still got to put at that effort. At the highest level, when people are comparing you to the greatest of all time of your position, and believe me, like Travis Kelce, he's definitely like within, like, you could put top 3, right, of tight ends, right?
Right.
But I think that when it comes to his effort, right, that was a very poor, that was a poor showing to have your worst effort in the biggest game of your career. And right now, he's at a crossroads in his career where it's like he could choose to retire or he could choose to stay. And I think that it would be very upsetting for Travis Kelce, who has had a tremendous career, right? Much like his brother Jason, where it's like you end your career on the saddest note.
On a loss, right?
But not just a note, like one of the worst losses of their career. Like to end it on such a sour note would be so disheartening. But I think because of that, I don't foresee Travis Kelce retiring. I think that he'll probably do it at least once more around the sun. But even still, it's like, if you do, you have to put that effort there.
So now, piggybacking off of the effort thing, and now you go to that play where Patrick Mahomes is scrambling for his life, and you see Travis Kelce. He's walking in the direction of the play in which way it's going. I'm pretty sure it was like a rollout to the right after the play had collapsed because the man that Travis Kelce missed was the one that went and blew up the backfield. So now Patrick Mahomes had to run for his life. Literally, the whole play blowing up was Kelce's fault. Instead of him walking, right? Let's say hypothetically you saw him cut and he goes and puts Jalen Carter on his head with a block. Even if it really didn't mean much towards the gain of yards or whatever, sometimes that's all it takes. That's all it takes.
Especially when you're the leader of a team.
That's where I'm going with this. When you are a projected leader on this team, people have been looking to you for years to make plays something. You see that all the wind is all but sucked out of your team's sails. The team on the other side is already celebrating their win. You got to do something that livens your team up, even if football is contact. Contact gets people riled up. Now you go and you put one of the other team's leaders on their neck. You put them on their back. You flat back them with a pancake block as a tight end. You told me that wakes everybody up. It's, oh shit, someone's still here.
Mm-hmm.
Who's ready to make a play?
Mm-hmm.
And I think when people get that captain's patch, the expectation doesn't meet the reality sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You're expected to make those plays when it counts, because that's when the real game is played, is when shit gets real. It's no longer by the playbook, and now you have to play football. A lot of people like playing playbook.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of people like playing football. When you just go and hit somebody.
And it doesn't matter what the score is. You
go hit somebody. You got to physical.
You got to make every play count, because in a game like this, where every play does count, you have to make that effort. And you're 100% right.
You know, if he was to go and let's say he made a big block, and all of a sudden Patrick Mahomes took it down the field, we'd be having a totally different conversation.
Yeah.
But it's the same reason why Chase Young fell off. It became very apparent that he takes a lot of plays off. Mm-hmm. But Dupree had the same issue after his injuries. Mm-hmm. You hear stories of players that take plays off. You're not supposed to be in that conversation. No. You have a captain patch on your jersey. You cannot be in that conversation. That is a very fine way to lose that captain patch. That is an earned patch.
And he's got to earn it next season too.
You have to continue to earn it. It is not a granted thing. Because
the Chiefs next year are not going to be the Chiefs of this year, where going into this offseason, the Chiefs are going to be – there's going to be about 20 people hitting the market, and like where their contracts are up, right? And I doubt the Chiefs are going to be re-signing all of them. So we're going to be seeing a lot of departures in Kansas City. We're going to be seeing a lot of new faces in Kansas City. And, I mean, we give them the benefit of the doubt because Andy Reid, he's an excellent coach, and he's been able to make it happen with a lot of rotating pieces. But I think that this was a loss that was much needed for the Chiefs, because they needed to get humbled, right? Because what they were doing was working, but it didn't work in the end. Because ultimately, they were a 15-2 team, right? But they didn't feel like a 15-win team. They were very fortuitous in a lot of circumstances. And you know, to say that they earned that first seed is tough, because again, Buffalo played amazing. They had the MVP, Josh Allen. Shout out to Josh Allen winning MVP. The Ravens played lights out towards the end of the year, where they played complimentary football. And there are so many other great teams in the AFC, and it's like, man, to go in and week out and think that you don't need to improve is ultimately what's going to lead to your downfall. And that's the thing, though, is the Chiefs for so long, especially the seasons, like they didn't need to get better because they just kept winning, right? But when the time came that they needed to step up and needed to shift into that next gear, they couldn't because it wasn't there.
Yeah, and I feel like that's more of a compliment to the Eagles than it is a smear on the Kansas City Chiefs, too. I want that to be very clear, that the preparation of the Eagles outweighed the preparation of the Chiefs.
Oh, 100%.
So, I don't want to hammer the Chiefs too much on how their performance was, because that would almost take away from just how well the Eagles played. Mm-hmm. You know, so with the Chiefs moving forward, losing all of those players, I hope that there is a glimmer of, we needed that, like you said. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of teams need the ass kicking down to earth that helps bring them back up.
Yep.
You know, there's a couple of teams around the league this year that took that ass whooping, and I hope they take it in full stride. They're one of them. Detroit's one of them. Washington is one of them.
Ravens are
They-
one of them too. I'll put them
Ravens are
right
one
there.
of them.
I'll put them right
You
in
know,
that
the
category.
Steelers got 7 of them, so we got 7 of them in a row. So I hope there's some soul searching done around this league.
Man, and so what a Super Bowl it was, man, because we have a great off season to look forward to. So I think I was gonna say, do you have any final thoughts on the Super Bowl, CP?
Um, no, this one kind of went not as people expected, but it wasn't surprising to see this was the outcome because of the energies that the two teams came into this game in.
Mm-hmm.
With the way these two teams came from the season and the postseason leading into this game, if you told me that after watching this that this is what the Super Bowl was, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised.
I'd be shocked as like the manner in which it was played, like
The tone in which it
an
was
absolute
played.
blowout, right? But surprised on the best team being the Eagles.
Not one bit.
I wouldn't be too surprised because they've been building this for a long, long time.
Correct.
So
again, when Mahomes went to the Chiefs, all the stars aligned.
Mhm.
No stars ever aligned in Philly. They had to make them work.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, absolutely. And the
The
stars are still
never
not.
aligned in Philly. They had to put the pieces in the right position and work towards it. It just didn't happen at the drop of a hat.
Mhm. And the thing is, too, is like they had to learn from their mistake from 2 years ago, right? That
Mhm.
they had to learn from that loss, and be a better team because of it. And it took 2 years, and here they are. And so
Correct.
for the Chiefs, if they wanna get back to another Super Bowl next year, obviously the road's not going to get any easier, but you have to learn from this loss, just like Philly did, because Philly earned every bit of that win.
And just be prepared because, again, you stepped on a lot of teams and rubbed a lot of teams the wrong way during this regular season.
Mm-hmm.
So you got some teams that are waiting to see you on their schedule.
Yeah, Allen, Burrow, and Lamar, they're all waiting for you guys. They're waiting.
Let's not forget the Raiders should have beat them too.
They
Raiders are waiting.
Mm-hmm.
Raiders are waiting. Just a lot of teams waiting for this Chiefs team.
Man,
They got receipts.
Oh man, so CP, let's take this opportunity right now to just kind of like look back at this past year in the 2024 season. The best of it, the worst of it, because there was a lot that happened this year, and a lot of good, a lot of bad. But we like to have that year in review of just kind of like look back and how good the season was, because it's going to be a couple months before we get some football back in our lives. But CP, let me ask you, what was, in your opinion, the best game this year? Your favorite game?
My favorite game.
Mm-hmm.
There were so many good games this year, and I mean like top-notch games. But honestly, I think it was probably the second 50-piece that Detroit put up when they really were like, we're just off to the races, because at that point they had 18 hurt players going into that win, and they put 53 up in that game, I believe.
Okay. I'm not sure which one specifically that was.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily sure. It's just I remember it was the second time they put up 50 in the league because they had 18 players hurt and they put 50 points up.
Mm-hmm.
It was that one. Eagles Washington in the regular season, game 1 was another really good game.
Mm-hmm. That one was which one? The first go around or the second go around?
Round 1.
Round 1. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay.
What about you?
Man, the best game of the year? To me, the best game of the year was probably the Chiefs and Bills in the regular season, because at that point in time,
That was a great game.
it felt like a movie, right? The Chiefs were entering Buffalo, a rival of theirs, and they were undefeated at that point in time. And it took a Herculean effort by Josh Allen, and that run and stumble into the end zone is just what champions are made of. That's what MVPs, like, that's how you earn MVPs, is by just making the play that's there and doing. Because I remember I was with Bates actually in Virginia watching that, and we were having dinner. Shout out to Bates and Kalen, and congratulations to little baby Wyatt on the way. I remember watching that game, and we got so hyped because of that. And it was like, at that point in time, with that run, they go up by 9, and at that point, you put it so far out of reach for the Chiefs that it made them look mortal. And it made them look very, very mortal when everyone was just kind of like, "Oh no, don't tell me they're going to have a perfect season on the way to a three-peat." And it was kind of that hero vanquishing the dragon, but obviously he couldn't do it in the playoffs. And also, I'm just kind of looking at the Lions' schedule right now. I think that game, because there was 2 games I'm looking at here. So Lions scored 52 against the Titans, and then they also 4 weeks later scored 52 against the Jags. It was 52-6 against the Jags. And then and then a couple weeks later, then they were against the Bills 48-42. Oh, yeah, and the Bills won that one. But yeah, so they had those 2 50 pieces against AFC South opponents, the Titans and the Jags.
Right. I believe
then,
if I was
And then I think maybe the best win there
was against that Bills.
No. Was against the Cowboys, 47-6 on
Yes.
Jerry's birthday. That was really good.
So I wish there was a video to show Cowboys bloopers of the sunbeam coming through going into the end zone through the giant bay window.
Oh, they're there, man.
Of the sheet metal falling off of the roof. Come on, can we just remember back to the moment where they had to pause the game because sheet metal fell off the roof?
It's fucking hilarious.
Come on, dude. The fucking building's falling apart, literally.
Oh my god.
There were some fun times throughout this league, throughout this year, man. But let's not forget that this started with a heartbreak with JJ McCarthy going down.
Yeah.
Let's keep that one in mind. That this game is brutal. That one of the most highly projected quarterbacks coming out of the draft didn't even see a fucking snap in the regular season.
And yet, because of that, the butterfly effect, because of that, led
the Phoenix that is Sam Darnold.
Yeah, to rising out of the ashes and becoming comeback player of the year. It's like, holy shit.
Darnold.
Holy shit. And it's like, it's just crazy the way, like, again, the butterfly effect happens in football, man, because everything happens so quick, right? And it's like, man, I'm really glad that a lot of people now, like, were able to kind of give Sam Darnold some credit for, like, the talent that he has as
a little bit of credit for trying.
But unfortunately, he had, again, his worst 2 games were the biggest 2 games of his career.
Right. And, again, you can't fault the man for never seeing playoff-bound territory and then getting thwarted in the fucking playoff games. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, with every quarterback, you got to take the floor with the ceiling. Sam Darnold has some fucking clunkers in his belt. He can play really poor football.
He can see ghosts.
Again, that was kind of like the mantra of this year when it comes to quarterbacks, is you have to take the floor with the ceiling. Look on the Steelers side. Look at Russell Wilson. Let's look at him for a second. He can fucking tear the lights out. Then his floor is, number 1, he can't play in the cold. He can't play when it's cold out. He showed that very clear. He likes to make his own fucking rules on the field that go against what the coach wants to do. Multiple things came out that him and Arthur Smith had issues. He had issues with Pete Carroll for doing the same fucking thing. He has one good game, and he thinks he's back to MVP Russ, and that's just not the fucking case. He's lost in his own brain.
I'm very interested to see where Russ, Sam Darnold, a lot of these quarterbacks that had some success this year, where they end up next year. Because Sam Darnold, some team's going to give Sam Darnold some money, and he's going to be starting on maybe the Vikings, maybe another team, probably another team at this point in time.
I would think maybe the Raiders. He would
Maybe
make
the
a good
Raiders.
Raider.
I mean, you could also pair Russ back up with Pete Carroll in Vegas. Who knows?
I don't think Pete Carroll would want that.
There's going to be a lot of moving parts and a lot of moving quarterbacks. And I know come free agency, we'll definitely be back here talking about all the parts in free agency.
Yeah,
Because
then I could fucking throw my promo on Pittsburgh and all my fucking discretions from this year. Dude, I Steelers are a lot for right now, man.
The Steelers are at a
Fucking
I don't
crazy turning point right now.
Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on the Steelers because I know we will in the offseason, right?
Oh, we will.
We will. But they are at a point in their franchise where the decisions they make now will affect them going forward. And this
feels like uncharted territory.
And this last offseason, we even said it too. It's like there's a lot of questions to see how the Steelers look, right? And we may not even get the answers come September or even January or February, right? We may not even get the answers until next year. And here we are a year later where, again, we have a lot of questions what the Steelers are going to decide to do going forward. So there's a lot of teams to keep an eye on this offseason. A lot of teams, they have new head coaches that I'm sure we're going to be talking about when the time comes. And there's just going to be a lot of new familiar faces in unfamiliar places.
It's going to be interesting, especially with the combine happening, going on, then the draft comes. There's a lot of teams that can really elevate themselves if they do things right.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be really fun to watch the next couple of weeks with the combine coming, with people having formal interviews with teams. Quick little anecdote about the combine. I'm really starting to get sick of players in college that are painted as faces of programs who elect for the drafts, and then they say they're not going to practice at the combine.
Mm-hmm.
Shedeur Sanders is not doing quarterback workouts at the combine. He was shown at, I think it was a pro day.
Mm-hmm.
He is wearing New York Giants cleats.
Why?
Because there's speculation that the Giants are going to draft him. He has more or less probably been in contact with the Giants, and his heart is probably sold.
Well,
which is fine if that's the decision you make. To me, you don't go to the combine, that hurts your draft score. Remarkably.
Giants may not even have a say in it because they're drafting, if I'm not mistaken, third.
Yeah, they may not get him.
Yeah, and we know number 1 is the Titans, number 2 is the Browns,
right.
And Lord knows both of them need quarterbacks
in the worst way
for very different reasons, but both of them need quarterbacks. So I would guess that, again, not going to the combine. I do agree with you that does kind of hurt your draft stock as a college player because teams want to know as much information about you as possible, right? And the team that you may want to go to, you may not get that opportunity to go to. So
they may not even look at your name because you didn't show up to work out.
It's true. And
you know what I'm saying?
And then they may slide down the draft board. And we have seen it many, actually every year. There's like 1 or 2 players that slide down a little bit on the draft board. It's like, oh.
It's because their combine score didn't hit.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, a lot of people try to downplay the importance of the combine.
Mm-hmm.
That is the last piece of information that scouts need.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to say it's irrelevant because there's no pads, it's nothing. This is the final test in your fundamentals of the game.
Mm-hmm.
We say it all the time that fundamentals are key. You want to show that you can do your fundamentals at full speed with no one around in perfect conditions? Go to the combine. You don't even have fucking pads on.
Yep.
You don't have fucking pads on. Just go, run, catch a ball, fucking, and do what you got to do. Show your footwork. Show this. Show what you can do. It is the last piece that 32 teams need before they realize, are you going to be our guy?
Mm-hmm.
And the minute you decide to say, I'm choosing to put zeros on my entire card, when
It's not a good look.
there's 400 people who are willing to put any number on any card just to get a chance to be looked at. I don't care what your name is. That hurts. That hurts, especially if it's a choice.
And I mean, I will say this though: sometimes people do slide in the draft for choosing not to do certain things, but sometimes they slide to the right team. And
yeah,
and I will say where I remember Aaron Rodgers was a big slide, right, in 2005 when he was drafted. I also remember Lamar choosing to not run the 40. And I think that definitely hurt his draft stock at that point in time. But it kind of worked out in his favor because
it landed him in Baltimore.
Because he landed at the right spot. So
right.
I think there's a lot to do with it, but I think that look, if you're a college athlete, and look, I doubt this show is reaching many college athletes out there, but if you are, right, you want to show the best of your abilities to the world. Why wouldn't you take that opportunity, especially at the combine? So that's at least my opinion, and I wholeheartly agree with you.
Because history is made at the combine too. It happens. Fastest 40. Who does the best of bench press, leap, vertical, the whole nine. It's just these are the components that they look for to be the athlete we need you to be, a pro athlete in. If you can run, let's say you can run a 4.3, but you have no vertical. That takes into account. You look at Kenny Pickett. What was the big thing that came with him? His hands are too small.
Yeah.
Small hands, and he's slow.
Mm-hmm.
That hurt his draft stock immensely.
That's Super Bowl champion Kenny Pickett to you.
Sorry. I didn't mean to disrespect.
That's Super Bowl champion.
That's Super Bowl champion, and he actually got reps. He got reps in the Super Bowl.
He took the final knee.
I know, he got reps. This man got reps in the Super Bowl.
Fucking hilarious.
You want to know something that hurts my heart? Kenny Pickett got reps in the Super Bowl before TJ Watt did.
I know. Kenny Pickett has more playoff wins under his belt than TJ Watt. TJ Watt has not won a single playoff game, which is...
You want to hear a fucked up stat? Again, I'm not spitting this promo this. I'm not doing it today, but it's coming.
Let me hear it.
TJ Watt.
Mm-hmm.
This is specifically aimed at him.
I like how you're so loud. You're blowing out the mic, and I love it.
Sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
Well, just straighten it a little bit. Just straighten it a little bit.
The final stretch of this regular season, he went 221 snaps without a single defensive stat,
which is absolutely fucking wild.
That averages out to about 4 games of total absence.
Bro. Like, I mean, it's not like he's not putting in the effort, right? Because he definitely is. But man,
dude,
like that's like you're
like I'm not mad, but do better. But like
you got to do better. Yeah, especially when you're the leader of that defense. So we'll see what happens again with the Steelers going forward. Again, they have a lot of more offensive questions than they do defensive questions. But let's be honest though, TJ Watt, as great as he is, right? He is a player that does kind of suffer from injury frequently.
A lot.
Frequently. And that's just to me, he's a Hall of Famer. Like I would put
future Hall of Famer, sure.
I would say he's a Hall of Famer. Maybe not first ballot, but
He needs a ring.
He needs a ring, and he needs a little bit more records to be broken. but I think that his presence is still important for the Steelers. And
100%.
and no matter what changes the Steelers go through this year, it's good to have those constants, and that he is going to be a constant presence in the locker room, obviously, as well as the biggest constant in Pittsburgh with being Mike Tomlin.
Again, I'm not doing this promo right now.
No,
I'm not doing it right now, but there is a lot that needs to be said
about Mike Tomlin.
on no, just the Steelers locker room as a whole.
I know.
There's a lot there, man. There's a lot to unpack there.
Then you know what? When the time comes, we'll unpack it. We'll save that off for now. We'll mark it down in this episode, but we'll get back to it, because this upcoming month in March will be free agency. Free agency will be on, I believe, the 13th or the 12th this year. So be sure to tune into an episode there. And then obviously we have the draft later on in April. And please stay tuned for that as well, because we will definitely be talking about both free agency and the draft going forward. Because for us, football is year round. It's always year round.
My friend, let me tell you something.
Tell me something.
This is going to be our 100th video.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned that, my friend.
I looked it up. I was talking to one of my buddies at work, and he actually asked me, and I had no idea. So I went onto our page just to make sure, and I felt that this is going to be our 100th video, Halpin. This started as a random conversation one night over an Xbox Live party. Remember?
I remember.
Like, over years of sitting online Xbox just talking football with our friends or just alone, and it turned into this.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how much fun this has been.
It's been such an honor to do this. This is our 5th year doing this, which is fucking wild to think about.
Right.
And like I've gone through so many notebooks of notes. Just
right.
I want to give a shout out to Staples for helping this. But no, it's been so much fun to just really kind of go through each team in the NFL and tell their story of the franchise, of players, and to do it with you, my partner in crime. I couldn't think of a better person to do this with. And you know I love you, my brother. And,
yeah, 100%.
And I do want to take this opportunity to also say thank you to everyone who has appeared as a guest, especially this season. Big shout out to Mikey, to Kelvin, to Cedric, to Kevin, to John Conti, to Alex, to Ellis. Thank you all so much for joining us this year. We had so much fun talking to you guys, and I always look forward to talking football with anyone, and to see the passion that comes out from all these different people, and each person that I mentioned is representing a different team, which was so nice to talk about. And so I just want to give such a big shout out to everyone who's been a guest, and I really hope that we see a lot more of these friendly faces next year as well.
It's been a wild ride, man. 100 episodes. I remember when we were first starting talking about this, and now we're talking about bringing people on, like, for interviews. Like you said, the 7 people that came on this year, thank you so much for coming on. We hope to have every one of you guys and then some next year. It's been a wild ride, man. And I feel like I've grown a new love and respect for this game. I've always loved this game from playing football, but there's always stuff to learn about this game.
Always.
Like this, like inside, outside, on the field, off the field, when it comes to officiating, everything it's just been such an enhancing way to learn the game again. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, my friend.
And for everybody who has been watching, I hope that we have helped you guys learn, if you needed to, helped you guys formulate opinions, whatever you have taken this podcast with. Whatever we use, I hope it has helped. Like the way we went into this, we wanted it to be a better and easier explanation for people who don't really know the game of football. And it's also a way to dive deeper into the sport for those who know the game of football like you and I do. So for that, again, everybody who has watched us from the jump, who watches us moving forward, thank you. And I hope you guys are as excited as we are for the years to come.
100 episodes, my brother. That's something. That's really something, and I'm
Says
really,
something.
I'm really proud of us that it's something that this is a hobby that we do, right? We dedicate time to this, and it's so nice that again, even the few people that watch, we're not hitting thousands of views, right? But we still love all the love that we get for people that do watch it and that do appreciate the work that we put into it, because we love the game of football so much that we want to share our love of the game of football with everyone out there. And because I remember very vividly that conversation, like that one of many conversations we've had on Xbox, where it's like, you know what, let's just record this, right? And whoever wants to listen to it, they can listen to it, right? And now, not only can people listen to it, but you could also be a part of this conversation.
Right.
And for that, it's been such an honor to be doing this year in and year out.
100%. 100 episodes in, man. It's like you said, I remember all the lost conversations that were had over Xbox, where it's like we would literally go on an hour and 20 rant on just talking football. Like, and I mean,
talking
just between you and I, right? Doing Who You Got. The spawning of Who You Got happened in an Xbox Live party. Yep. This whole thing started in an Xbox Live party, and now we are so happy that people have decided to be a part of this conversation in our friend group. New friends along the way, new friends to come. It's great. I love it. I love this.
And honestly, it seems very emblematic to end the year. And I think that that's probably the best way to end this year is with 100 episodes that, for us on this show. Just, CP, thank you so much. And big thank you to all our guests. And thank you to all our audience out there who listen to us.
Yeah, for sure. Halber, you got any final thoughts before I close this out for the year?
I love you, my brother. That's all I wanted. That was my final thought.
All right. Well, there you have it, guys. There is our Super Bowl recap, our year in review, and a little bit of reminiscing on the 100 episodes in. Thank you to everyone who has been here for those 100 episodes. If you come along the way, I hope you enjoy the rest of the ride. Please leave a like, a comment, subscribe. Interviews will be opened up come after the draft, and once the preseason is underway, we will start to we hope to fill up the year like we did last year. But until then, we will see you guys soon.